two guests. They always have awesome presentations with great insights on innovation acceleration. And I'm talking about Dr. Karen Tilstra and Andy Tilstra. So Andy and Karen, welcome. Great to have you with us. I'm going to do a quick introduction on both of them. And Andy Tilstra got his Master's of Social Science in Anthropology from the University of Chicago. He has done research on public space in Chicago and how it relates to power dynamics. Andy also runs a podcast that has over 10,000 downloads. With him, we have Dr. Karen Tilstra, who holds a doctorate in innovation and transformation and is a licensed educational psychologist. Karen has helped businesses, universities, government, and healthcare organizations create innovation labs and develop their innovation teams. She believes we need to stop taking ourselves so seriously. I am so excited to have you two here. I know that our audience is always in for a treat when you're presenting.
Thank you, Jose. It's fun to be here. So we're very excited to be here with you, and we want to just tell you the story of how we got innovation labs running and how they work at a grassroots level. But first, we want to share a short video with you.
All right.
We think we want to share it.
2 words can change your life. I do. You're fired. It's malignant. There's 2 other words, simple, rather mundane, and very common, that when used together can also change your life.
When used together can also change your life.
These
and
2
change
words?
the world.
Yes.
These 2 words? Yes.
Innovation to me is inspiring.
Innovation to me
is going somewhere new.
Because it means you're going somewhere new.
The concept of Phil came when Florida Hospital was looking to really become more intentional about innovation process and cycles.
Dr. Karen Tilstra brought on the leaders of the Florida Hospital organization to begin this innovation lab. Their vision was to have it open to everyone in the hospital.
From the moment you walk in, you can just feel the energy.
We've seen people work together who haven't worked together. We've seen a culture of innovation emerge where we never thought possible.
Phil is embedded in the center of Florida Hospital. It just made sense because all you have to do is step out directly onto these units and you're getting empathy.
It's a very rapid, self-correcting innovation model that connects with the end user to experience what the end user experiences, so they're moving beyond their habitual ways of thinking and acting.
This is so powerful because solutions are coming from where they need to, from the front lines where the people are actually encountering the problems.
Chief Strategy Officer David Banks said the Innovation Lab would be successful if it fostered a culture of innovation across the healthcare continuum. So far, we've had over 300 doctors, 400 administrators, and 1,200 nurses come together to collaborate and redesign the patient experience.
When Phil began, the focus was on internal projects. As word spread, more and more outside companies began to co-create at Phil.
Over the past 5 years, Phil has run over 500 projects, and each one has had a unique challenge with the potential to revolutionize healthcare.
We were able to reduce our cycle time from 63 days down to 41 days, and we were also able to increase our retention rate from 46% to 75%.
We redesigned the pediatric surgery experience, and parents are now reunited with children the moment they come out of surgery.
Adventist Health System brought together 40 people from across the country to fundamentally transform how we transition patients from one care setting to another.
We went from collecting maybe 10% of our uninsured patients to 25%.
We eradicated patient falls for 108 days, catapulting us from last place in the hospital to amongst the top 5 units.
Our public policy department was able to increase the readership of our publications by nearly 50%.
We shaved 10 minutes off of our stroke process, which means we saved 20 million neurons a patient.
52% of our patients now are finding their car that were not before.
The Health Village Fitness Center has seen a 40% increase in engagement in just 1 year.
Our communication with nurses on HCAP scores have been above the 75th percentile for 3 months in a row.
We're seeing 37% more patients a day, which enabled us to hire another full-time employee.
K-Tape has found 4 new innovative applications for kinesiotape in medicine.
We've increased pre-op readiness for our inpatient surgical patients from 40% to 80%.
Over 1,200 students are now literate in using design process to solve complex problems.
We went from an average of 37 complaints a month to 0.
We're now seeing 88% of patients in 7 minutes.
And we've never done that in the years, and we've tried many different things.
It's for the patient that we ultimately do a better job at what we're doing. So if you got to ask, what do? You improve patient care and save lives.
The past is no longer predictive, the present is fleeting, and the future is where we need to be.
So that's just a little snippet of kind of what we want to show you. We're excited to be here, and we want to just give you a grassroots view of what we've learned, and probably things a lot of things you'll know, but remind you of, and on all the topic of how to stop the innovation killing.
Right, and as we mentioned in the video, here are a few of the partners we've worked with. Karen, as mentioned in the video also, was one of the first creators of an embedded innovation lab in a healthcare system at Advent Health, which was then known as Florida Hospital. So it was the Florida Hospital Innovation Lab, which was called PHIL. So if you hear us call PHIL or talk about PHIL, we're talking about the Florida Hospital Innovation Lab, which was the now Advent Health Innovation Lab. And Karen also has, created innovation labs in the Orlando Magic or public sector, such as Florida Health, Seminole County Health Department, and Orange County as well. And we've also presented at American Nurse Association. We've had OSRAM and 3M, and as well as Loma Linda University. So we have some experience of providing and initiating innovation within healthcare systems across the country.
And one thing we've learned is everybody is really the same, no matter big or small, where you sit in the organization, it all kind of comes down to the same thing. We want to just share some of that with you. Alrighty, so how do we kill innovation? And really, it's very simple how we kill it. We overthink it, but we kill innovation by defining innovation too narrowly. And it's a very easy thing for us to do, is innovation. Defining innovation widely really opens up the gates, but believing innovation only exists at the top of the organization actually creates which intimidates people. People become intimidated, like, wow, I can't do that. That's only for the very top. Therefore, it creates lots of blind spots at all levels of the organization and stymies a lot of innovation that could happen at the grassroots level. And what we mean by innovation is innovation is everybody's job, and it looks different at everyone's level, but it really is everybody's job. And when everybody understands that, a culture of innovation begins to emerge in an organization that will become a learning organization that will be actually future ready, relevant, and sustainable. And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money, and it creates a dynamic, and we've seen it, and it's hard to believe, but it does not have to cost a lot of money. Anyway, okay, onward and forward. So a narrow definition of innovation really does kill it from what we've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. And so by narrowly defining innovation to the top of an organization puts it a lot of the load on the leaders of an organization. So why do leaders fail at innovation organization when 97% want innovation, but only 13% actively engage in innovation or know what to do? Now,
and then we want to say here, all due respect to leaders, because leaders don't want to fail. This comes from McKinsey studies, Harvard studies, and some of the innovation board studies that pretty much all say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, no worries. You have the doctorate here. So the leaders at an organization, though, they don't know exactly how to innovate. And this isn't no one's fault. Innovation is ambiguous at best. So a lot of leaders don't know how to innovate. They don't know who to ask or where to go for help when it comes to innovation, because as we mentioned before, the innovation could be defined too narrowly. Now, when you add all these three things together, it makes innovation appear very risky, which, you've heard probably a cliche or a platitude of, risky is the new safe, but when you're actually in the driver's seat, risky can be very, very scary and very hard to do for a lot of these leaders. So when you add,
no, go ahead.
So when you add, right. So when you add the unknown of innovation mixed with you don't know where to go for help, combined with the narrow definition of innovation, it can provide a daunting task for these leaders, which are trying their best to create innovation and create a safe space for employees to innovate.
That's right. And so innovation is actually why it gets so difficult, or why we oftentimes kill it. It is counterintuitive to the way we've been taught, but it's very intuitive to our human nature, which people oftentimes forget or haven't learned that, because humans are creative by nature, but it gets kind of taught out of us. So what we've seen, we'll use the Florida Hospital Innovation Lab, Magic Innovation Lab, Orlando Magic, and some of the others as a model of what we did is we created an innovation lab that was very low res, you might say, that the top leader gave permission and responsibility for the organization to innovate, and then begin to discover what that looked like. So one thing that we learned from Stanford, Michael Ray, who actually did a lot of study in innovation, that there was 4 things we can all do that don't cost a thing, but as the top leader kind of puts the innovation call out, training people 4 simple things. The top leader gives permission and wants responsibility in innovation, and what we call the magic sauce of creative thinking, which leads to innovation. So innovation is our destination, and the creative process is getting us there. And that's part of the reason innovation gets kind of messed up, is we don't realize there's a journey to get there. But 4 simple things: embrace your inner creativity. Embrace the fact that you're creative. Everyone's creative a little differently, but just embrace the fact you're creative.
Mm-hmm. Suspend negative judgment. Have a yes and mindset. Give every idea or every possibility at least 10 seconds of life, because it may just lead you to places that you may be needing to go.
And make precise observations. Learning to
Karen. Oh no, I think Karen's having some internet issues. Or is that me?
No, it's Karen, Andy. So if you can go on, until she can come back.
Okay, so making precise observations. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at begin to change. And then the 4th one is asking penetrating questions. When you want better answers, you just need to ask better questions. So that's the magic sauce of creativity. We like to teach this at all of our projects that we do. And we even have people check in with one of these 4 qualities. But these are the 4 simple things that don't cost a thing, that anyone can do at any level. Now I see Karen is back and her video is not pixelated. So
sorry. I didn't know if it was me.
Yeah, there was some internet difficulties there.
One thing that I do want to share, since this is all rooted in research, when we have shared this with organizations, we've had many stories of people coming back and saying, wow, those 4 things we posted on our wall in our boardroom, we posted on our wall in our conference rooms. And we started checking in with meetings with these things, and it really made a difference. And this is the thing I've learned, helping lots of different organizations. Some of the most simple things can really activate people and give people permission and responsibility. So again, embracing inner creativity, suspending negative judgment, even for a moment, really observing and asking good questions. And the more questions you ask, the better you get at it. So questions are really the key to the future. So just keep that in mind. Teach it to your groups, and actually you'll see a little difference of the quality of meetings. So, okay, that's just a little foundation we wanted to tell you, because we want to get into actually some really key points of how innovation thrives at all 3 levels. And our 3 levels are top leadership, middle management, and frontline staff. And one thing about top leadership that we found, I've seen it over and over. I've had the president of GE tell me this exact thing: the closer you are to the top, the farther you are from the truth. And it's kind of shocking when you think, wow, leaders are supposed to know everything. Well, they don't, and oftentimes they really don't know what's going on. I say that respectfully. And so when we create a embedded innovation lab, you actually are creating a bridge, frontline knowledge all the way to the top. And so the way the top leader can activate innovation is, first off, acknowledging it only works if the top leader is saying, yes, let's innovate, and give a voice. A common mistake leaders make is they just simply give a voice. Yes, everyone go innovate, but they forget, or they don't know 3 very simple things. They give the call, the innovation cry, but then they allow for resources. They provide resources of time, people, physical space, and budget. Now, I'm telling you, these look different in every organization. They can be at a large scale or a small scale. And again, it's learning what your organization can do. But if the top leader gives these resources, time, people, physical space, and budget, it opens the pathway. And then provide a way for people to learn education, new skills, new mindsets, and new tools for innovation. And we have found, I've just been so energized by this. You teach people some very simple tools on the mindsets of innovation, some skills. They naturally want to innovate. People want to be involved in innovation. They want to make their jobs better. They want to make their customers happier. And when we really level the playing field and bring innovation to all people, things get better. The organization becomes a learning organization. And then so the leader they don't have to do it themselves. They can bring people in. They can, there's so many ways to do the providing education. And then holding the people accountable to innovate. This again doesn't have to be expensive, doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes it might require a little tweaking of a job description, but holding people accountable. Simple things like, when we opened our first innovation lab, the top leader, when he met with his cabinet, tell me, what are your people doing to innovate? How have you opened the pathway for innovation? And it was little things. Some of people, I learned that, for example, a nursing unit might be having a challenge. Activating them to solve that problem, giving them a space to come do it, and then letting them tell the story. And the top leader allowing to have people to do it and then hold them accountable. We saw a very dynamic process start that started with an excitement from the top and went all the way to the front line of the organization, and then also from the front line of the organization all the way to the top. And it doesn't happen overnight, but once these things are put in place, people get activated. I have seen it in healthcare, education, government. If it happened in government, it can happen anywhere. Oh, I say that respectfully. Government needs innovation. Yes, Andy.
Yeah, so that was top leadership. So going down from top leadership to middle management, we want a mantra that Karen has so lovingly coined. It is the innovation kill zone. Is what we call middle management.
All due respect to middle managers, but it's no fault of their own. But I'm telling you, innovation dies in middle management, and it doesn't have to. That's the good news. It doesn't have to.
So, and a way to make that instead the innovation thriving zone, number one thing that middle management can do is they can act upon the leader's permission responsibility that was given. So when the leadership, when the C-suite executives say this is what innovation is, this is what needs to happen, the middle managers are the ones that enact it in the departments, in the office spaces, in the small teams, in the large teams. The middle management is the one that's seeing the employees face to face. So by doing this, the middle management then creates space for conversation. What exactly are we meaning by innovation? How does this look for us? What are we expecting from this? Because what we saw at Advent Health was a lot of confusion when Phil was put in place, and that persisted throughout most of the lifespan of Phil. But it was very confusing to say to a nurse, hey, if you have a question or if you have an idea, just take that down the hall to the innovation lab and you will have a team that can set up a project for you and you can create a revolutionary idea prototype very quickly. It was very confusing because that doesn't usually happen. So middle management creates the space for that conversation to learn about that. And then middle management fosters the question of what's really going on here. Remember how we said in the magic sauce, ask penetrating questions. This is one of the most penetrating of all. What is really going on here? And then middle management listens to the answer from the front line and then can relay that to others and also to top leadership. Middle management is in the middle. It's between top leadership and frontline staff, and they have a very important role because they are the first line of defense or the first barrier that innovation faces when being implemented into an organization.
And it's a really cool bridge when the top leaders have given permission. It starts to, in every organization is different, but it starts to make sense when space is created. And middle management is encouraged that they don't have to have all the answers. A collaborative space begins to form. Then we look at the front line. How does innovation thrive at the front line? And this, I find, I love the front line part because They actually have the most critical knowledge, and I have found working with lots and lots of frontline people in all different sectors, it's like, oh no, we can't talk. We're not supposed to say anything. And so what I found working with frontline is we built, again, bridges into getting them to accept the fact that they had permission and responsibility. And this comes, again, as our top leader said, we want everyone to innovate, and we're going to discover what that means. And now, I want to say something here. We're not talking about innovating a whole new product that would create a whole new business model for the organization. That could happen, but we're talking about defining innovation at the grassroots where everyone participates at the level they are. Now, we have seen, when we get this in place, some awesome, amazing solutions that came out or opportunities that got embraced that did transform. But just so people don't think, what are you talking about? We're talking about creating a space, an actual physical space, and now we've learned how to do it virtually, to open up frontline where they can start to innovate at that level. It's low-level innovation strategy that's very powerful. So getting the frontline to embrace the permission and responsibility. We've had people who will say, I don't think I can say anything. I don't want to get fired. But as the middle management, then we work with middle management to actually, what's really going on here? You know what's going on. Can you help us see? And this is direct connection with the front line, the customer, the end user. And that is really where sustainability and relevancy comes from, when we really identify the needs, spoken and unspoken, of the front of the end user and customer, and the front line knows this. And then getting the front line a place and a space where they can share that information. Because we just had an experience a couple weeks ago where the middle manager was actually opening up space and the front line was sharing. They had a lot of new learnings. And when it went to the top leader, they said, we can't, that's not what we were thinking. We can't do that. And the middle manager is so proud, says, no, wait a second. We had the executive sponsor support. Please listen to our frontline new learnings, please. And when the way we set it up, it was the top leader was able to embrace it, and it kept them from making a huge mistake. I wish I could give you all the details, but I can't. When the front line is given access and it's opened up for them to share what they know, it is transformational. And you might be saying, how do we do that? We're going to actually give you some information how we did it. And again, it works differently in every place. So we're just giving you our story. You can take it and apply it to your space to make it work best for you. So again, we had top leadership, middle management, and now frontline. So the power of an accessible innovation space. So what's that look like, Andy?
Right. So Karen helped create the Florida Hospital Innovation Lab, and then we've created another innovation lab at the Seminole County Health Department, and then Karen has also helped create other innovation labs. And what Karen really, and I feel funny speaking for you here, Karen, but what you've really found and teach is that the innovation lab and innovation space is a powerful instrument in creating an innovative culture within an organization. But that doesn't have to be exactly physical. I mean, obviously it can be physical, but we've seen it done in a mobile way. There's like innovation trucks, innovation carts, innovation teams that have maybe the innovation lab in a backpack, the innovation tools and materials necessary to go through the whole innovation process in, just paper and pencil. So as well as virtual, especially right now in COVID. We're getting a little, maybe to the tail end, who knows, fingers crossed, but with vaccines rolling out, people are starting to be able to roll out more physical, but I don't think the virtual aspect is ever going to go away. So me and Karen and I have been honing our virtual skills and creating the virtual innovation labs, and that's what we're doing in the Orange County right now with these huge organizations, about 8,000 members. Creating a virtual innovation lab is another answer, but the real thing is just creating a space, mental space, social space, physical space for innovation, conversation, and discussion to then lead through an innovation process for outcomes and solutions. That's what's really important here.
And so Again, I just love to pound this in. Innovation is everyone's job every day because it keeps us from defining innovation too narrowly. So what did we do? And then we need the points, yeah. So,
sorry.
We have leadership just needs to say, yes, I am for an innovation initiative. You don't have to know everything before you start. Then you actually get, as we said, free up middle management at some level. Get them to, again, we can do it through training, simple training. None of this has to be complicated, honestly. I believe too many people make innovation too complicated. Just simply the top leader saying to middle management, we need you to create a little space for learning. We need to get our goals. We need to keep our metrics and our milestones, and then activate the front line. And what I found is an embedded innovation lab inside an organization, which could be physical space. It could be, as Andy said, mobile. It could be very simple to get people to come into this space. So how did we do that? We're going to highlight it very quickly for you. So I like to look at innovation in 3 spaces. It's a launching of innovation, leading it, and then landing it. It's a launch, lead, land. And there's learnings on all 3 of these spaces, but one leads to the other. So if you learn how to launch, then you learn how to lead it, and you learn how to land it, and it becomes a collaborative effort, and it's creating an ecosystem instead of an ego system. It is very, very collaborative. So our top leader put the innovation cry out. We're going to innovate. And since it was in healthcare, and I didn't come from healthcare, several people that I asked the leader, can I have some people to help me to make this so I can understand the culture? One thing they said, it's a very hierarchical system. How might we give the very clear message that everybody has permission and responsibility? And they came up, this is not my idea, they came up with the idea of a badge tree. And we had a local artist create a metal badge tree. And people, when they came into the lab, because we had a physical space, hang their badges up as a physical representation that we were moving beyond hierarchy and that we were letting permission and responsibility emerge. The crack up to me was the artist that we asked to create the badge tree kind of looked like a marijuana tree. This was 10 years ago. So one guy from surgery said, well, this is a good omen, but she said it was supposed to be a palm tree. But anyway, just some physical artifact that people, when they came into the lab, they actually did something to show we are here now all together. And low barrier, easy access. I visited some of the innovation labs before we started ours, and a lot of them were far off, hard to get to. You had to take classes. Nobody could just go in. And I noticed that the companies said, we're just struggling how to get an innovation culture going. Well, I said, let's have it low barrier, easy access. And one way we could do that was root everything in action learning. So when people brought projects into the lab, permission from the top, middle management was supporting. For example, a nursing unit brought a project in. We didn't take any time teaching them any innovation strategies beforehand. We just got them right involved in the project using the design thinking methodology. Design thinking is very self-correcting, very simple to apply, and it's rooted in deep empathy, and it's about 80% discovering what the problem is, and then 20% quickly ideating, prototyping it, and testing it out. And then I asked, and every innovation lab I've consulted with an organization, I've asked for a dedicated group of people, 5, 8, 10, depending on the size of the organization, who I could work with closely, train them, and they become the advocates. And then they become facilitators in an innovation space. Now, I found when you're trying to get a low-level innovation strategy going, to have dedicated people who can help facilitate, who can train people how to facilitate innovation, works really well. You can get a large, so when we say we've done 500 projects in 5 years, it's because we had a dedicated staff that we taught people, and people were really running their own projects that we could oversee. I could tell you way more about that if we had more time, but it's really exciting to see it happen, because what I've learned in the 12 years I've been involved with this is everybody wants to be involved in innovation at some level, and everybody's creative, and we give them a pathway through a low barrier, easy access root them in action learning via the design thinking model. We have a dedicated group that's all from all over the organization that can help. And then we do a simple thing. Everyone that brings in a project or an opportunity to explore, we just simply have the top leader has given the lower levels of from below the top leader. If it's in your direct line, and if you feel it aligns with our strategic aspirations and imperatives, give permission for the project to run. That doesn't mean you're agreeing with the outcome. Just give permission for the project to run. And then we rooted the projects in deep feedback loops. So we created what we called our 4-minute report out to executives that the project really related to into their vertical. And then the team would come and tell the highlights of the project and what they wanted to do. And at this point, the report out panel could say, yeah, we like it, or what about this? We have some questions. What if you maybe tweak it? But yes, let's go ahead and move forward at a low level res prototype. And then we rooted it in story, and the top leader let us tell the stories at town halls, at different forums, at group meetings, and it became a very dynamic process that engaged every level of the organization. And as people worked in design thinking, language started to change. People started to realize, I don't have to go to the innovation lab. We've learned some skills. We can innovate right in our department. And I loved it. Every time we've done this, we have seen innovation activate at the grassroots, and it brought very viable information to the top. And it created a sustainable loop, like a life loop. And I saw a lot of people promoted when they worked on, that was an unintended consequence. In fact, we would train people, they'd get promoted like, we wanted to keep them. So what kind of outcomes can you expect from an embedded innovation lab that's either physical, virtual, or mobile?
Yeah, so what we saw, and just 3 broad umbrellas that we wanted to highlight: a highly engaged learning organization. This is what was an outcome of an embedded innovation lab. The organization became highly engaged, Gallup scores went up, nurses, frontline staff, middle management, they understood the power that they had and the impact that they could exert on the organization, and it was done so in a collaborative way that was very healthy, and there was an energy around it. Next, there was an activated collective IQ, the creative capacity and leadership potential of all people in the organization, not those whose job description just specifically asked for it. So this everybody was activated in this way.
Right, and I really saw that once we started running it, it really tapped into the collective IQ of the organization, the creative capacity, and the leadership potential across the board. And I know organizations don't like to hear this, but even the most marginalized, it gave them a voice and hope. And it just was very inspiring to see it happen.
Yeah, and then the Innovation Lab created a way for the organization to become relevant and sustainable. It was a disruptor, an internal disruptor. It was an internal thermometer. It was an internal temperature check, a calibrator. It made sure that everyone's voice was heard, so that if someone had a good idea that was where the organization needed to go, there was a place for them to say it. So these are just 3 outcomes that we saw from an embedded innovation lab, and we're coming up on our time soon, and we'll have just 1 or 2 more slides.
We have 1 more slide that I just want to say a bonus takeaway. If you make innovation your business as usual, and just don't freak out when you say, how do I do that? Just step into it. And there's 3 questions you can just ask yourself that are so easy. How can I help? Who can I help? And who can help me? I have found those 3 questions can keep us moving. And innovation is all about movement. It's about embracing the unknown with safety. And it's also embracing our mistakes and having forgiveness for ourselves and for others when we don't quite hit it right. But keeping these questions: how can I help? Who can I help? And who can help me? And that is, I think, some of the first steps, along with our magic sauce, of making innovation your business as usual. And one last thing, leadership. If the top leadership is not engaged, you have to do some work to get them engaged, because it won't work if the top leader isn't engaged. But top leaders want innovation, and they don't always know how to do it. So this is a very simple way to get them going. So thank you for joining us. We just breezed through it, but yes, thank you so much. It's been fun.
Yeah.
And Andy, the last slide.
Yeah, if you want to contact us, you can contact me at andy@creativityeffect.com, or you can go to our website. We love talking about innovation, and we just love spreading the news of everybody's creative and everyone has the innate ability to innovate. So thank you guys so much.
We're not big salespeople. We really, I'm passionate about the innovation process. And just if you're wondering, this is my son. I'm very honored to be working with him. And he's done some fantastic innovation work. And if you have questions, if you give us your email, whatever, we're no pressure. I mean, I really want you to know that we're not here selling. So we just wanted to let you know how much we have enjoyed the innovation process and how accessible it can be if we really look at it from the grassroots level. And innovation is everyone's job every day. Thanks so much for joining. And Josie, we're going to give it back to you.
Fantastic, Andy and Karen. Always great energy and insights on your presentations related to innovation acceleration. William Fuller says here, great introduction of collaboration as a foundation of innovation. And many other comments have appeared during your presentation. One common theme on the questions is related to what do you see the state of innovation in the healthcare industry right now, with so much pressure on the system with COVID, and people, are stressed, and how does innovation find a space in an environment like that?
Well, I think what I've noticed is, if you can get an innovation, start to teach innovation to people, they can carry it with them. And I see the problem with healthcare is we've had it so ramped up because it is based in best practice. And I think our goal is to seek next practice. What can we learn as COVID is hitting us? And what do we need to change? And having a language, we don't always know the answers, but we can try low-res solutions. We don't have to take ourselves so seriously. And what I saw at some of the hospitals I was connected with, the big thing was we're just freaking out. No one's here to help. We don't ever want that to happen. So while we are, now we're just coming out of a big crisis, but before the next crisis happens, let's start thinking of how we can put some very simple innovation strategies, such as, like we said, the magic sauce. I know it sounds very simple and even a little sappy, but embracing our inner creativity, suspending negative judgment, asking penetrating questions, making precise observations. But that works when we've set the environment that we can allow those things. One thing we learned, we had in one of the big hospitals, they had a big crash. I'm telling you, if they had not had some already set up, like we're going to have a yes and mindset, they wouldn't have gotten through it. But they said, wait, we can try this. We don't really know it. Let's just start trying it, because things were coming at hospitals so fast. Literally, bodies were being put in refrigerated trucks. It was chilling to see. And those organizations that were able to say, what can we try? Because we don't know everything when a crisis happens. We just have to keep moving, but keeping space for discussion, for building on the ideas of others, and having a yes and attitude that wisdom lies within us. And conversation is still the best problem solving tool. And if we can remember those things, it's really the simple things. It's not the big strategies that save us in those times. It's the small things that we keep connected with each other. Because, as again, what I've seen is wisdom lies within healthcare workers. And if they can activate that and work together, that might have been a sappy answer, but that's what I've seen.
That's excellent. One other question and theme that has emerged has to do with the leaders themselves. It's wonderful if the leaders behind what you want to do and you want to accelerate innovation and create value that way. But a lot of times the leaders will not admit this, but they are scared and afraid of losing control. So how do you approach leaders who will never admit that that's the reason, but have that control issue behind maybe some of their reservations on embarking on an innovation journey?
So what my experience has been, when people come to me to ask me to help them get that going, and they're not the top leader, because sometimes as a top leader, we create stories. There's some things that have worked. We'd like to get the leader just talking, and they might not at first say, wow, this just blows my mind, I'm too scared. But having them, what I've found is taking them on some place, letting them see some innovation spaces, sharing some stories with how it worked. And to me, it's the 3 myths of the modern world that trip so many leaders up, is they think that nothing's connected. Well, I mean, this is generally speaking, not all leaders, that they have to know everything before they start, and rational thinking is best. So what I say, what I've seen, everything is connected. They don't have to know everything before they start, and rational thinking is good, but it needs to be combined with creative thinking. So it's melding the science with the arts, and that's the scary part. So if we can get them to say, let's just see what some other people are doing. How is that working? How does that fit with our culture? Then when you start to break it down, every leader wants innovation because they know that's the only lifeline they really have. And the problem that I've seen is leaders, they feel they have to have all the answers. And so what I've told a lot of leaders, I'm telling you, I've worked with some leaders from really big organizations, and they all eventually say the same thing. They really don't know what to do. I say that respectfully. But so if we say, but if you create a way to test ideas quickly, create a way to get information and conversation flowing across across the organization, leaders, oh, we can do that, and I don't lose control. Actually, they have more control when they do that. We've had leaders say, wow, we had no idea. We actually have more control, and there's such a security that comes with that, but it has to be continually reminded. I think for us to be innovative, it's a daily commitment. You have to recommit. I'm going to be innovative today.
That's very good. And Andy, I have a question from you. With a background in anthropology, which is quite fascinating. Anthropology and looking at human behavior, it's very core. What are some of the lessons that you take from anthropology to the work that you do with innovation?
Right. So I think a big thing of anthropology is obviously the study of culture. The thing about culture makes it hard is it's the one thing we can never specifically state exactly what it is, right? It's like the culmination of all of our blind spots. You know, it's like as a white male, there's a lot of things that I just take for granted. And same thing all of us do to certain degrees. And that happens in organizations too. Like as a nurse, there's just certain things a nurse thinks, does, and says that just it's habit. So one thing that's been really fascinating for me coming into the innovation world is seeing how certain people see innovation as almost like a culture killer, or almost as like a cultural enemy. Is like, wait, but we've done things this way all along. Like, why would we change it? Oh, wait, you're asking me to think in a different way. So it's been really fascinating to me because I don't think those people, or the things that I've heard people say, I don't think they want to say that. I think it's just a reaction to a change, or because invariably the people who have been the most griping or the most defensive have always become like our best advocates. Once they become convinced, or once they go through the process a few times. So that from an anthropological background, that's what I find fascinating about innovation.
Yeah, and Annie's been awesome. I mean, it's working with the old and the young. See,
right. Old. Karen, why are you changing the fonts on the Google Slides, please?
But one thing I have to say,
that's just more experience. That's all it is.
Thank you. Well, one thing we have learned, and we tell this to people all the time, self-preservation is the first defense of the human experience. And when people start realizing that, oh, I'm always in a self-preserving mode, oh, I recognize that I can pause on that. And people are innovative by nature. We just get it taught out of us.
And that's right. What we mean by creating a safe space, is it's allowing almost like a safety net for people to understand that I'm going somewhere where I will be very uncomfortable on many levels. My boss's boss is in this group with me, and I'm telling him what I think of his idea or their idea or her idea.
That's where the badge tree was awesome. And people would just say, that's one thing, this badge tree, where people had to literally hang up their badges and say, I'm checking into innovation space. And we've learned how to do that virtually too. But people are just awesome. They can do it. Anyone can do it.
Very good. Karen and Andy, it's always a treat to learn from you. On behalf of our global audience on Healthcare Live, I want to say thank you for taking the time to share your expertise with all of us today.
Oh,
Thank you so much, Jose.
It was fun being here. To all the people we couldn't see, thank you for joining us. We hope one day we can meet face to face.
Thank you so much. See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Karen Tilstra and Andy Tilstra on creating an innovation culture in your organizations. So always high energy, always great insights from those who are leading innovation acceleration in the healthcare industry today. So grateful for their insights, for their collaboration. We're gonna be taking a break now. And at the top of the hour, we're going to bring a global industry expert and speaker, and Donald Cook, the president and CEO of his own company, who talks internationally about transforming healthcare and how we are transforming healthcare through intelligent automation specifically. So I've had the pleasure of working with Don on a number of large initiatives, and it's always a pleasure and to learn directly from someone who has been in the industry for decades, and it has the highest level of knowledge and influence on the industry. So very much looking forward to that session. I see you and Donald Cook at the top of the hour. In the meantime, if you want to post updates, thank the sponsors, thank our speakers for sharing their wisdom with us, just go on LinkedIn, put a like in there, make a comment, and we appreciate, and I'm sure the speakers appreciate your engagement on that platform as well. So we're taking a break for now. See you back at the top of the hour.